It was a day etched in American history. The nation watched, captivated, as the verdict echoed through the courtroom. Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States, was found guilty. The charges: obstruction of justice and conspiracy to defraud the United States. Never before had a former president faced such a reckoning. The weight of the moment was palpable. The courtroom, usually a stage for legal battles, transformed into a crucible of historical significance. Trump, once the epitome of power and bravado, sat silently as the jury delivered its decision. The image, broadcast across the globe, was stunning in its symbolism. The verdict marked the culmination of years of investigation, speculation, and bitter partisan divide. From the moment Trump stepped into the political arena, he had been a lightning rod for controversy. His presidency, a tumultuous period marked by scandal and upheaval, had finally reached its legal conclusion. Yet, even as the gavel fell, signaling the end of the trial, it was clear that this was not the final chapter. The verdict ignited a firestorm of reactions, exposing the raw nerves of a nation deeply divided. The battle for the soul of America, it seemed, was far from over. The trial itself had been a spectacle, a meticulously orchestrated legal drama that unfolded over weeks of testimony and cross-examination. The prosecution, armed with a trove of documents and eyewitness accounts, presented a compelling case. They argued that Trump, driven by a desire to cling to power, had knowingly undermined the very foundations of American democracy. Central to their case was the now infamous phone call, the recording that had sent shockwaves through the nation. In it, Trump could be heard pressuring election officials to find him enough votes to overturn the election results. The prosecution argued that this call, along with a pattern of similar actions, constituted a clear attempt to obstruct justice and subvert the will of the people. Trump's defense team mounted a vigorous counteroffensive, painting a picture of a president targeted by a politically motivated witch hunt. They argued that Trump's actions, while perhaps unorthodox, were not illegal. They characterized him as a political outsider, a disruptor who had challenged the status quo and, in doing so, made powerful enemies. The defense team sought to discredit key witnesses, portraying them as disgruntled former employees with an axe to grind. They argued that the prosecution's case relied on conjecture and interpretation, lacking the concrete evidence needed to convict a former president. The jury, however, remained unconvinced. After days of deliberation, they returned with their verdict: guilty on both counts. The decision sent shockwaves through the courtroom and beyond, reverberating through the halls of power and into the homes of everyday Americans. The nation braced itself for the aftermath. The verdict landed like a bombshell, unleashing a torrent of emotions across the United States. For many, particularly those who had long opposed Trump and his brand of politics, it was a moment of vindication. They saw it as a triumph for the rule of law, a sign that even the most powerful were not above accountability. Celebrations erupted in cities across the country. People poured into the streets, waving flags and carrying signs proclaiming justice has been served. Social media platforms were flooded with messages of relief, joy, and even a sense of catharsis. The years of anger, frustration, and fear that had gripped the nation seemed to dissipate, at least momentarily, replaced by a glimmer of hope. But for others, the verdict was a bitter pill to swallow. Trump's most ardent supporters, many of whom had remained fiercely loyal throughout his presidency and its tumultuous aftermath, reacted with anger, disbelief, and accusations of a rigged system. They viewed the trial as a politically motivated witch hunt, an attempt by the deep state to silence their champion. Protests erupted in pockets of the country, fueled by a potent cocktail of anger, resentment, and conspiracy theories. Trump himself, never one to shy away from the spotlight, took to his social media platform to denounce the verdict, calling it a travesty of justice and a politically motivated attack. The verdict also sent shockwaves through the Republican Party, exposing the deep fissures that had been growing within its ranks since Trump's rise to power. The party found itself grappling with a fundamental question: how to reconcile its traditional values of law and order with its unwavering support for a man now convicted of serious crimes. Some Republicans, particularly those who had long harbored doubts about Trump's fitness for office, seized on the verdict as an opportunity to distance themselves from the former president. They condemned his actions, calling for a return to civility and a focus on conservative principles. They saw the verdict as a chance for the party to hit the reset button to move on from the chaos and division of the Trump era. However, a significant portion of the Republican base remained firmly in Trump's corner. These voters, many of whom felt left behind by the political establishment, saw Trump as their champion, a man who spoke their language and fought for their interests. They were unmoved by the verdict, dismissing it as a product of a biased justice system determined to silence their voices. The Republican Party, caught between these two opposing forces, found itself at a crossroads. The party's leaders faced a difficult choice: to embrace Trumpism and its fervent base, or to chart a new course, one that risked alienating a significant portion of their voters. The verdict cast a long shadow over Trump's future, both politically and personally. While his conviction did not preclude him from running for office again, it undoubtedly complicated his path back to power. The legal battles, the lingering cloud of scandal, and the deep divisions within the Republican Party presented formidable obstacles. Trump, however, was nothing if not resilient. He had defied expectations before, weathering storms that would have sunk other politicians. He retained a loyal base of supporters who remained fiercely devoted, convinced of his innocence, and eager to see him return to the political arena. In the immediate aftermath of the verdict, Trump remained defiant, vowing to appeal the decision and clear his name. He continued to hold rallies and make public appearances, railing against the deep state and proclaiming his innocence. His grip on the Republican Party, while shaken, remained strong. Whether Trump could successfully navigate the legal and political minefield ahead remained to be seen. His ability to rally his base, raise funds, and overcome the stain of conviction would determine whether he could mount a successful comeback or whether his political career had reached its final chapter. The verdict, while significant, was just one chapter in a much larger story, the story of Trumpism and its enduring impact on American politics. Trump's presidency, marked by its unorthodox style, its disregard for norms, and its appeal to populism and nationalism, had left an indelible mark on the American psyche. Trump's supporters, drawn to his message of economic nationalism, his promises to drain the swamp of Washington corruption, and his willingness to challenge the status quo, remained a potent force in American politics. They viewed Trump as a fighter, someone who spoke their language and understood their frustrations. Trump's critics, however, argued that his presidency had unleashed dangerous forces, emboldening white supremacy, xenophobia, and anti-democratic sentiment. They pointed to the January 6th insurrection, when a mob of Trump supporters stormed the US Capitol in an attempt to overturn the election results, as evidence of the threat posed by Trumpism. The verdict, while offering a measure of accountability, did little to bridge the deep divisions that had come to define American society. The battle for the soul of America, the struggle between competing visions of the nation's future, was far from over. The long shadow of Trumpism continued to loom large, a reminder of the fragility of American democracy and the enduring power of populism in the 21st century. Trump is sure to triumph in the next election, and the truth of all the Democrats' filth will come out.